Perfect. All right. So this is going to be part three of how to do an attack animation. So, um, biggest thing that I really want to do right now is I want to try to hit my poses now. Now that I've been kind of fine tuning the previous poses here, I'm feeling really good about those. But I really want to knock these poses out. And the major thing that I absolutely want to do is get a better line of action, especially for this pose right here. As you can see right here, we've got a nice kind of forward line of action. I'm sure it looks like that from the left view. No, it doesn't. Okay, I'm glad it doesn't. So let's quickly fix that. So easy fix. I'm literally just getting the rotations here. As you can see, it actually looks like even this needs to be rotated forward even more. So
Professor, I think you're not sharing right now.
oh, perfect. Okay. So really quick, let me just screen share really quick for the class. Thank you so much. All right. So, again, friendly reminder, um, making sure that the poses are at least matching what you want to try to convey in the reference and using that reference to better assist you with hitting um, better poses. So, this I feel like could be bent down a lot more. So, I'm going to do that to try to hopefully give myself a better line of action. And it probably helps to have it on the right pose. So let's just cut that and paste that here. Perfect. Okay. And let me get the hip rotation. Drag that over as well. Cut that. Paste like so. Okay, I definitely got too excited. Got ahead of myself. So let's go back really quick. And sometimes that happens. So let's go back all the way over here. I'll make sure that nothing's animated on this side. Perfect, nothing is. Okay, that's much better. So the pose that I do want to hit is this awesome curve that I have over here. So let's draw that curve really quick. Let me get that in again with a grease pencil. Let me add one right here. This is absolutely the line of action that I want to hit. This one and this one. So let's open up the rig again and try to hit that pose. So if I'm going in here, yeah, that's I'm definitely not hitting that. So let's try to hit that pose. Um, I'm actually just gonna look at this view for now. What I really want is to have the energy that I have here. As you can see, it's kind of broken up a little bit. What I could do easily is to kind of fix this rotation like so. Just kind of dial that back a little bit more. And then I can rotate my hips forward, and that'll make it way, way easier to kind of hit that pose like so. Um, However, I'm having some weird stuff on the rotation of the body, and that's something that I need to suss out first. So what I'm going to do is, let's look at this first. My hips, despite the torso, are actually still kind of facing forward. So let's look at that from the front view just to verify. Um, and it kind of looks like it's actually rotating in actually. So I'm having some conflicting images right now. Um, Let me see what my hip is doing. So I'm immediately in this pose, and by this pose, I want to say 33. Actually, actually better yet, 34 is when my hip is actually forward. And then by 38, I'm actually rotated over. Let's see what it looks like on the left view. So okay, so about the same thing. So 35 is when my hips are actually facing forward, and now that I'm looking at the reference, my pants literally just didn't follow through for this reference. So, plain and simple, uh, I'm about forward at this point, and then I'm rotated in a little bit more. So what I want to do is now go to my reference on the front view, verify that again, make sure I'm not seeing things. Perfect. No, that does make sense. So around 2 frames before this, we do have some rotation inward. So now I'm going to pull up my character, and what I want to do is, let's see what it looks like front. So this is front view. Okay, so yeah, I'm now verifying, absolutely yes. My character's hips should be front, but a little bent over like so. And really, most of that rotation is now happening on the torso. So what I want to do is have this come in like so, trying to match the reference. And that's looking much, much better. So it's honestly, oh my gosh, made my rig feel far less broken doing that than if I were to attempt to try to fix it like I was before. So now that I have that, what I can do now that I have a satisfying rotation on the front is go to the side view. Let's go to the side view and now try to hit this pose a little bit better. Remember, I want the hip to come down a little bit more. Let's see. Okay, so we have a really good question in class really quick. Let me address that. This is a really good question. Okay, so Isabel asked, as far as exaggeration goes, would you say it depends on the project? Like for Overwatch, you probably do a little bit more than you would for the Warcraft cinematics. That is a great point. So, exaggeration ultimately depends on what it is you are trying to convey. If you want to have more elasticity in your character, it's going to give you a more cartoony vibe. If you want like snappier, really bouncy animation, then I highly recommend watching Hotel Transylvania, where Sony Pictures does a phenomenal job at using timing and spacing in a way that makes it incredibly snappy. That is a series or a show or a movie that I would highly recommend watching if you want to get that more snappy feel. If you want to create something that's more realistic, then you would do what I'm doing right now and really trying to hit the reference as close as possible, and then making your exaggerations way, way more subtle. So if I wanted to make this character more subtle, I would try to hit the poses on my reference a lot closer, and I wouldn't be pushing the boundaries of the silhouette maybe as much. So something to keep in mind. That's kind of how you get that really weird. If you've seen like highly rendered animation sometimes, and I don't want to bring up anything, especially if this is going on YouTube, but there are some animations that you'll look at and they'll try desperately to make them look incredibly realistic, but then they hand key and hand animate the face, and you look at it and you're like, oh, that's uncanny valley. That's not how the face is supposed to work. That's because, generally speaking, our brains are not good at, I guess, creating hyper realistic faces hand keyed as of late. We're getting better. We're getting better. But it's exceptionally difficult. So, to answer your question, if anyone's interested in more exaggerated stuff, I definitely recommend playing around with timing, spacing, and posing. If you're interested in something that's more realistic, then I would lean more into the body mechanics that you see and really, really look at the little minutia of detail that happens on the hips, the feet, and the articulators of the body, like the elbows and the shoulder as well. Great question. Okay, so with that said, I want to push this in a kind of more cartoony direction. because this is like a really cartoony character. I can make them more realistic, like say, even oh shoot, even the Incredibles is more elastic, no pun intended, but they have a lot more realism, I would say, in Pixar animations, rather than having the snappiness of Hotel Transylvania. Okay, so we have that. Um, Now that I'm looking at this on frame 38, I'm not quite satisfied with that back arm. However, I guess I will leave it as is for now. Let me go back to our camera view. That looks okay for now. But what I want to do is make sure that the front and the side view look right. And they kind of look like they do. One thing I want to make sure is like what's happening to this foot. So this foot. That's weird. I don't know why this part crashed. Let's go to perspective view. That's so weird. Why is that happening? That's so funny. Just get stuck. Sorry, technical issues. Let me save this really quick and then reopen it. When in doubt, don't be afraid to save and reopen things, because by and large, that seems to be the way to fix things in Maya. So let me go ahead and save that. And let's just reopen this really quick. So open the scene. As you can see, like it's totally busted on the rig up there. I just want to see what happens if I reopen it. And that is super, yeah, it's fixed. Okay. Again, I don't know why Maya does that, but sometimes it does. So now that that's fixed, let me see what's happening to this front foot. Okay, so the front foot's coming up a little bit. And it's, let's see, it starts there. And it rotates out a little bit more, like so. Okay, so that makes sense. That's working. And then I'm really, really leaning over that foot, and my knee is rotating also. So what I want to do now is look at this foot. See how it's moving from this frame to this frame. So from this frame, I'm really leaning into that foot, and it's almost rotating a little bit, which is going to give me that even more grounded feeling. So let me click on this. And again, I'm looking at the smaller details of what's happening on the feet and the hips, because those are the most important things to animate first. I've got this, and I definitely want to rotate it a little bit more, like so. And that already is giving it a more satisfying feeling. And it looks like I've already moved the knee a little bit too. So, but you know what? Yeah, that's good. Make sure that's good. That moves over a little bit, and then it moves over a little bit more. Perfect. Awesome. And then last but not least, I want to add a little bit of rollover on the side. Find it. I'm getting closer. Kinda. There you go. Okay. So I definitely want to lean that over more. So that's at 5. Did I already account for that? Oh, I did. That's really cool. Completely forgot about that. How about that? Alright, let's make that maybe 10 instead. And then when I come back, you'll feel that foot come down, and that'll give you more of a weighted feeling. So I'll probably tinker with that. I don't know. Who knows? I like having it in there regardless. So worst case scenario, if I come back and I'm like, oh, I don't like it, I can just delete it. That's the cool thing about animating, especially in Maya. Worst case scenario, if I don't like something, I can just get rid of it. So always keep that in mind. Okay. So we've got that pose. Next thing I want to do is try to hit this next pose. Let me make sure that one is at least more satisfying. Again, I'm not really jazzed about this silhouette that I have here. Let me fix the head. Let me look at the front view. So I'm definitely looking more into camera. Let's try to do that more. So let me rotate the head. Shut that out a little bit more. And this will look even better. So I start tinkering with the eyes. Once I get the eyes, then I'll have them moving forward and it'll be much easier for you to follow what the character is doing. Otherwise, keep in mind also for those who are doing the acting or attempting the acting piece, you definitely want your eyes and your pupils to be visible at all times. Your pupils especially, you want your pupils to be visible at all times because that's going to help feed that the character is alive. So just to kind of demonstrate that really quick, let me turn on the facial controls, I believe. Let me turn them off. Let me get the eye controls, perfect. So let me just show you what it looks like. So I want you to look at this image specifically. I'm going to move this forward. And already that's giving it more life. And then last but not least, if I were to push this even further, let's go to the facial controllers, turn that off, turn these on. And then I would get this right here and add a little bit more character, like so. And I think there's even better face controls if I look for them. Control add. Yeah, oh yeah, there definitely is. Okay, so if I wanted to push this even more, get these eyebrows, jack those up a little bit, and then kind of give you the rock look. And also, again, remember if you're doing characters, you want to fix the pupils so you can at least see a majority of the pupil. Technically, this is correct according to the face controller, not to me, because that looks ugly as hell. So what I'm going to do is make sure you see a majority of the pupil, and that'll give you a lot more character. Again, way over what we need to do for the attack, but at least now you know. Okay, so let's Control Z all of that. Doesn't matter to me right now. Right now, what I need to focus on is the body. So going back to this, what I want to do now is I want to jet this a little bit. God, I don't want it to lean too much forward because I want this nice kind of curve that I have here in the back. So what I want to do now is let me fix this cape actually. This cape is what's giving me some problems. So let's go to perspective view, like so. Remember, from this pose to this pose, the cape should be following. So let me just fix his head really quick. Got that, paste that there. Awesome, cool. Now what we're gonna do is let's freaking fix this cape. My gosh. Okay, so let's go down the cape. And remember, same thing that we were discussing earlier, from this pose to this pose, this would be coming back a little bit actually. So let's move that like so. Actually, we're really just coming down. So what would happen, if I'm just coming down all of a sudden, the cape would actually come up a little bit. So, like that. So kind of be lifted up a little bit, and then as I'm doing this huge movement from here to here, this would drag a lot, like so. So if it's coming from this place, yeah, that feels way better. So it looks like the cape is coming from that direction now, as opposed to like, oh, it's just kind of there. So to push that even further, I want this to drag a lot more. And I'll even bring it down just a wee bit, like so. But I also want to make sure that I kind of have a better silhouette on that cape too. So what I'm going to do now is just zoom in a little bit. And I want to fix that silhouette a little bit more. So what I need to do is, rather than just have like this really straight line, I kind of want to tuck that in a little bit. And then I really want to tuck this into a curve. So it kind of gives me a better shape. Like so. See? So, but as I'm looking at this, I'm still kind of not happy with the straightness of this. So let's grab this really quick, lift that up a little bit more, and then let me bend this a little bit more. And I think it might just be the rig. There, that's a much better shape. Like that. There you go. Okay. And then as you can see, it's kind of dragging over like so. Again, I'm not going to see that, but if I was animating a game character where you're going to see all angles, then yes, absolutely, you're going to want to see that. I'm just finessing it and fixing it simply for this right here. And before anyone gets too excited, do not animate this until you have finished doing all your key poses. Because if it was up to me, I would literally be doing this right now. Just being like, look how quick he's moving. Like, whoa, dragging. Don't do that. Do that after. Don't be me, be better. All right, we have that done. I'm not going to worry about this backhand quite yet. As we're doing the cleanup, I'm going to see what that looks like. Worst case scenario, no problem. I can just give it a quick fix. All right, so now that we have that, I'm going to delete this. I don't need this portion right here. Let's go back. Let's see what frame it's on. Or if I can't delete that. Let's delete that. There we go. Perfect. Okay, next pose we're gonna hit is the overlap. So, the main thing that I like to do to verify that it is the peak or the zenith is I try to go to the furthest point where I am overextending right before I come back. What does that mean? Plain and simple, let's just look at the actual reference. So, if I'm looking at this reference right here and I'm playing it out, get out of here. If I'm playing this out, what I want to do is I want to see where I go furthest. The moment I see myself coming back from that pose, this right here, you can see my arm is just about ready to come back up. And the second I go from here to here, yeah, this is the furthest point where I'm overextended. Right after this, that's when my arm comes out. And you can even see right here in this reference. Stop, no, I don't want the grease pencil. Thank you. All right. Frame 44 is the frame where I am furthest extended. The second you go beyond that frame, let me go to left view so you can see it on this side. Sorry, front view. The second I go beyond this, that's when I start to come up. Just like so. You can see it on my arm. Now, you have some wiggle room. You could, if you want to, like play around with some of these frames. However, you can see my arm even here. Immediately starts to come out. About that pose right there. So this is the pose that I really, really want to try to hit. That looks like I'm either about to throw something or I am about to come back from something. And this is honestly the overlap, the follow through, and the anticipation for the next action, which is going to be me coming back from that pose, my recoil, and then finally back into the idle. Perfect. Okay, so let's go to frame, I believe it was 44. Yes, 44. And let's just try to hit that pose. And let me delete this as well. Perfect. Awesome. Good stuff. All right. So we've got our character now. Let's go to frame 44. And this is where I'm absolutely going to start jetting those hips. Let's look at what the reference is doing. Let's actually turn off, let's turn off the rig so we can see what is happening on the hips first. So my last pose is, let's bring up the character again. Ooh, God, no, please. Make a goblin. Next one I'm going to do is, let's see, let's open up the controls. Goblin body add. Oh, that's right. The controls are here. Okay. So next thing I want to do is I want to key this first and foremost so I can see where my hips are. And you know what? Actually, while I'm here, let me key the hips where I would have my my kind of overlap. Sorry, my key poses. Let me key where I would have my key poses. So this one's going to be much more difficult to kind of follow back. What I like to do is I like to have my follow back with the arm right in front of my body. That way it's easier for me to follow an arc. Because what I'm really trying to do is like look at this arm. Just look at the wrist actually. Just make it way more simple. Let's look at the arc of the wrist back here. So as it's coming up, we're kind of following this arc going upwards, and then it immediately rotates into a down. The reason I like having my hand here is because from here to here, it's very easy for me to follow an arc on this side. So if I zoom out, just looking at this arc, you're coming up, and it's just a really easy arc to follow. It's almost like a nice, cool rainbow right here. And then it's even easier for me to see the arc of the hand coming out this way. As you can see, it gives this really, really easy arc of just coming up and then looping back. So I like having my hand in the front because it's super, super easy for me to then go into my, actually, am I even in the right view? I'm in an animation view, but oh shoot, where's my tab? My workspace tab, no. I'll fix that later. Anyway, it should be on animation. No, it's not. That's okay. Why am I on render? I'm still on render. Okay, I'll fix that later. But when I have the motion trail, I want to be able to follow that arm to the best of my ability. So I'll find that and I'll fix that another time. I don't want to spend too much time trying to fix things. All right, so now that I have that, let's go to the next pose where I feel like I want my arm to follow. Let's have that wrist right in front. Yeah, right there. That's good. There. Yeah, that's going to be an easier pose to hit, so we'll put it there. So I'm going to key the hips. Remember, you can't see it, but I have the hip controller selected, and I have that keyed. So I know, okay, from this pose to this pose, that's the return. And finally, last but not least, this is going to be the idle or the rest pose. And that one, I'm literally just going to copy this one and paste, because remember, this is a cycle. Now, is this entire cycle going to be 77 frames? Absolutely not. What I'm going to do is actually select all of these, and eventually I'm going to crunch them down like so. Probably down to like, I want to say maybe 38, maybe 34 frames. I'll snap this so all of the keys snap together, and then when I play the animation out, the character will actually be snapping a lot more, and then I'll start to finesse and change the timing and the spacing of my key poses, just like so. And I think you're actually able to do that with the reference too. You can, I think you can edit the reference, believe it or not, inside of Maya, mind you, to further demonstrate that. Let me just quickly change the reference to be editable. Perfect. Frame offset, frame in, frame out, alpha gain ratio, maintain ratio. I forget where it is exactly though. But don't be afraid. You're actually more than able and welcome to kind of manipulate this as well. So I'm not going to get too crazy with it. But you can actually edit the video reference in Maya as well. I'll try to see if I can find a video for that, but don't worry. I actually don't use it at all. All right, back to the rig. Let's look at what the body's doing. Let's turn on these controllers again and see if we can adjust them. So let me go back to where I once was before I started changing and editing the rig. Should be visible. Make sure it gets still crunched. Okay, there we go. Now I can see the actual rig. Perfect. Okay, back where we started. And I think I need to go forward actually. Okay, yeah, this might actually bug the crap out of me. Okay. You know what? That's okay because we're almost out of time for this part anyway. Let's not worry about what I was going to do by trying to bring up the animation bar again. When I do figure that out, I'll probably show you in the next video. That's okay though. Let's find the rig again. Okay, so sometimes it bugs out a little bit and you gotta bring it up again. But let's try to hit the next poses. Okay, so next one is our overlap. Remember, the hip is coming in way, way more. If we're looking at the reference here, we're coming in like so, and then we're really crunching down into this next pose. So the hip, I believe, is coming down as well. Perfect. Okay, yeah, the hip's coming down because we're kind of squishing back into that kind of a metaphorical ball. So let's kick that down a little bit more. Perfect, so that's coming in. I also think we're rotating down as well. So we absolutely want to get that in there too. And it actually works out because we're getting a really nice kind of curve here as well. Remember, I'm not getting too excited about the upper body quite yet. What I want to make sure is that the feet and the hips are right first. So this foot definitely starts to swivel, and I'm absolutely going to take advantage of the foot control. Because again, like I don't want to like freaking deal with this and try to figure this out. I would much rather just use the foot controller that is already there and rotate it even further. So let's see if I can push that further. I hope that it doesn't extend to the furthest at 100. Let me just see what happens if I type in 200. And it looks like the maximum is 100, which is a bummer. Because that means now I have to kind of tinker with this foot now. Actually, no, that kind of works too. Wow, that's kind of cool. Actually, that's exactly what I wanted. That's even better. All right. So, let's see. Oh, this extends a lot though. So let's definitely get that in there. So that comes in quite a bit. That's like a total pivot. Yeah, let's push that as much as we can. And then let me look at the front view. That looks good from the front view. Fix that knee. Remember, you want your knee to try to follow the foot as close as possible. So that's following there now. That's looking like a solid leg. Oh man, I kind of want more though. Yeah, I'm gonna push that a little bit more. Oh, okay, that's broken. Let's not go too far. So, again, when in doubt, like, if you can push it to the point where it almost breaks, even better. Honestly, like, I'd much rather prefer to see that in an animation than an animation that tries to play it safe. So, if you're animating, you almost want to push it to the point where it's almost broken and then dial it back to where it is no longer visibly broken, and that's going to give you the most bang for your money when it comes to animating. So something to keep in mind. And honestly, like, it's looking pretty good in this angle right here, and this is the angle that I'm going to be rendering from. So let's just keep it there. So that's happening. That comes down on frame, let's see, what is it? Frame 44. Nothing's extending further beyond that. Good. Let's see what's happening at the furthest extend. So my foot is not moving really much anymore. Maybe like very, very subtly on the foot right here. So like maybe just maybe I can say like 6. Or no, not 6. Keep that at 5. Before I get too excited, let me save right now, because I can already sense Maya wanting to crash on me. Sometimes you'll feel it in your bones. Let's go ahead and save. Perfect. Now I can do whatever the hell I want. Don't have to worry about crashing Maya. But the rollover is something that I absolutely want to fix. So make that just a little more subtle. There you go. And that's going to give it a little bit more grounding. Like so. Let's move the knee just a little bit further. Because as you can see, like my knee right here is just slowly extending out. Actually almost beyond the leg, which makes sense because I'm really driving that force out. So let's do that. And as you can see, like I'm really pushing the boundaries of that knee now. Like I almost want to do something like that. That's a little too much. So the other thing to keep in mind, everyone, is I'm also looking at the timing and spacing of this. This looks incredibly subtle right here. If I were to jet it out that much, it would be popping the leg in a small span of frames too. So what I want to do is, I actually want this to be a little bit closer to that. And then this should really not be going that much farther, because I want it to seem like I'm really pushing the boundaries of that leg by doing that. And maybe just a little bit more. Sorry. There you go. Awesome. Super subtle. Okay, and then last thing I want to do before we kind of cut it here is, again, looking at that hip, seeing what the hip's doing on the Z rotation. So it looks like I'm really coming into this and kind of crunching my body in a little bit more. So that's what I want to do. I want to crunch this body in a lot more. So let me rotate the hip down a little bit. Remember, very subtle here. I'm kind of already further, like this is probably the furthest my hip is going to be able to extend. And that also kind of gives it a nice little like squish or divot. You know what? Now that I'm looking at this, I kind of want this to be down a lot more. I really want you to feel squished into this with the character. To kind of give it a really satisfying, like, bam. I'm really squeezing into this pose right here. So let's go to the front view. Fix that really quick. Like so. Remember trying to push it as close as I can to the reference and then start breaking it if I want to. Looks like my head is really, really almost hardly visible. And jump that down just a wee bit more. And now that I have it kind of close to my reference, I'm looking at this now. I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm definitely kind of still have that same kind of energy, same kind of action. However, my back is like really, really rotated. So let's try to push that a little bit more. And then let's really try to push this upper torso. Because you can practically see my back here if we look at the reference. Like so. So I want to make sure that you're also able to see that, at least from this angle. And apologies, I'm going to make him naked for just a moment. And as you can see, I'm really starting to break the rig. So that's the next thing I would be really, really mindful of, making sure that this rig doesn't feel broken. I'm trying to change the base before I get too excited. Last but not least, just for the sake of getting this in, I'm going to jet that arm out too. And then this arm really, really comes back. So let me go perspective. Apologies again for the naked goblin. I guarantee that elbow control is probably hiding in the head. So what I'm going to do is get a little bit closer to that and see if I can bend that back a little bit more. Again, if I can find it. Sometimes the elbow control loves to hide inside the body. And I want to say it's probably this one right here. So let's just, perfect, like so. And that's definitely kind of breaking it a little bit, but that's okay, because I can always use this one to rotate instead. Like so. And that feels like a much better kind of action as well. And last but not least, silhouette. Boom, done. That is okay for now. I'll definitely fix this later on. Let's put some clothes back on him. But this is going to be part 3 of how to do an attack animation. And then finally, in the last part, we'll hit our last poses, the return and the idle. That'll be super easy to knock out. And then we'll just do some quick cleanup. And that's basically it. So we got, again, the idle, the anticipation, the attack, the contact, the follow through, the overlapping action, the return, and then last but not least, the idle, which you're going to hit. I believe I think it's 77 for me. Okay, so hopefully that's of assistance to you. We're going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to teach the second part of how to animate a acting piece. So I hope this helps, and I look forward to seeing you all again next week.